Welcome. This is Module 2, Topic 1, Lesson 2, Activity 2.5 on simple interest. Go ahead and take this time now to read the activity description. Pause here. So you just read about simple interest, which is a fixed percent of the principal, and the principal being the initial amount of money that you put into a bank. In short, I like to think of it as banks rewarding customers a percentage of their money back for simply being a customer. And then the customers receive a percentage of their money back over time. That is the interest, or excuse me, according to the interest rate. And that interest and that amount that you would earn is calculated using this formula here. This is the simple interest formula. The simple interest formula is interest, meaning the amount that you earn, is equal to principal, which is the money that you initially put in, times the rate, times the amount of time that it is in the bank. At this time, go ahead and look at the worked example, read and analyze it to see how this applies in the real world. So Kim deposited $300 into her account and she didn't touch it. And the interest rate is 5% per year, meaning she's earning back 5% of that 300 every single year. That's kind of similar to what we've been doing, finding the percent of a number, the percent of a whole number, except this time we're multiplying it by the time that it sits in the bank. And when you multiply all three of those values, 300 times 0.05, which is 5% in decimal form, times the 3 years, you would find that she would earn $45. So think about it. How much money would she have after 3 years? Pause here and answer that real quick. If you said $345, you are correct. Let's now get into question number 1. So question number 1 says, complete the table by using your knowledge of the formula for simple interest. Go ahead right now and actually write the formula down on your paper. Pause here. So here's the formula, and I've even color coded it for you so that you can see what goes with what value. Now, this is probably your first time seeing simple interest in this formula. So to get you guys started, I'm going to show you how I would complete and find the interest for the first row. If I were you, I'd get this down in your notes as I am writing. All right, so let's get started. As you can see, I've already written down my formula and I've identified and filled in the values for each of those variables. I've also color coded it for you. Now to solve, all you're doing is multiplying. That's the only operation in this problem here. So you can either multiply, let's do yellow, these two numbers first and then multiply 5. You can multiply these two numbers first and then multiply by 425. Or you could even multiply these two numbers first and then at the end multiply that 0.07. Me, I personally like to start with my whole numbers. So I'm personally going to multiply 425 and 5, and then I'm going to multiply it by that decimal number. So 425 times 5. Now, if you can do this on your own, go ahead and pause here and solve on your own. You should have gotten 2,125, but we are not done solving yet because we now need to multiply that by that 700ths. Go ahead and set that up. You should set up your multiplication just like this. If you can solve on your own, go ahead and do that now. The answer you should have gotten was 148 and 75 hundredths, which if we put that into back in our equation, we can now say that I, or the interest, is equal to $148.75. Go ahead and put that in your table. Now that you have an example written down and you know how to solve for interest, go ahead and fill in the rest of this table. Before you get started, I want you to think though, what if I'm missing the principal? Or what if I'm missing the interest rate or the time? Think about what you would do to solve for those values. How would you set up your equation and then solve for the variable? Think about that. At this time, go ahead and pause and complete question number 1. And here are the answers that you should have got. Go ahead and compare your answers to the answers in the table. For the last 3, if you struggled, think about how you would isolate the variable for each. For an example, if you're solving for the principal, This is the unknown variable. And to solve that, or excuse me, to isolate that, you would have to multiply the rate times the time and then divide that on each side. So you would have to solve interest divided by the rate times the time. And the same thing if you're looking for the amount of time. You would multiply the, the principal times the rate and divide that by the interest. And the same thing for the rate. I think we get the point. Now let's continue on to question number 2. Question number 2 reads, when you borrow money from a bank, the amount you borrow is the principal, and you pay the interest on that money to the bank. In real life, you would use this or see this when you are borrowing money from a bank, say for a mortgage or a car loan or even a credit card. So using the same formula, again, I'd write that formula every single time if I were you. Interest is equal to principal times the rate times the time. And remember, it is also on your reference sheet, so you don't have to memorize it. At this time, go ahead and pause here and complete question number 2. And here are the answers that you should have gotten. Go ahead and check go ahead and check your work and your answers. If you have questions, compare your work with the neighbor or ask a teacher. That completes this activity. I will see you in the next video.